Baton Rouge. I'm gonna get me some alligator shoes.
This episode is powered by Mesh, a strategic brand and marketing firm built on insight and creativity. For over 20 years, they've consulted with some of Baton Rouge's biggest brands. Check them out at whenwemesh.com.
Hey everybody, we're back for another crossover event of It Runs Deep and Alligator Shoes. You know, Michael and I started this and we were going to do a podcast together, and then over a couple glasses of wine we decided, well, we have a little bit different interest in what we want to do, so we kind of split apart, but for special guests we come back together where we have mutual interest in that person. And Garret Graves, welcome to the show, because you're one of those at the very top of our wish list.
Hey, thank you. Great to be with y'all.
Yeah, well, we save, like you said, special people for our crossover event, so it's an honor to have you, Garret. And you and I go back a long way.
Let's not define special today.
We go back a long way, and we're kind of, before we get into our kind of special moment together, we took a little road trip. For the people living underneath a rock in Baton Rouge and Louisiana, give us a little history about yourself, where you grew up, how you grew up, and kind of where are you bounced around, and how did you end up here today?
Sure. Well, look, biggest claim to fame is that I was Michael Hackett's roommate.
Right.
And that's where I should start. No, look, born and raised here. We grew up in Sherwood Forest area and then moved over near Tara. But just always finding trouble in the outdoors my whole childhood. Just loved to be, running through the ditches or just anywhere I could be out in the coastal region growing up. I got exposed to outdoor mountain sports in high school and just absolutely fell in love and started playing around in the Ozarks and Appalachians and out west in the Rockies and up in Alaska and Pacific Northwest. And so I did a lot of mountain sports. I was a wilderness instructor, met my wife actually teaching a course. And to this day, she's a better climber than I am. And then you and I had the chance to work together. I'll tell you a quick little tidbit. My dad was giving me trouble about doing something, what he referred to as more serious with my life, because I was basically doing the outdoor stuff. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do something. And so I started looking around, and it was almost like this rebellious thing. I'm going to get an internship in the U.S. Congress. And so I applied. Michael and I both got an internship with John Breaux, who was a senator. We road tripped to North Carolina.
That's right.
Ended up being roommates together. We took ourselves on many self-guided tours around that city and on bikes and walking and running and everything else, and just absolutely amazing experience. Ended up, my 1-month internship turned into about 13 years working on Capitol Hill for Louisiana's congressional delegation. Came back home, worked on the coastal program after Hurricane Katrina, did Deepwater Horizon oil spill and a lot of other amazing events. And then I got so frustrated with U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, I decided to run for Congress to change it, and did that for a decade and finished in January.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Michael and I were talking about this, and I heard some tales about that road trip. So there were some really interesting things.
There were some tales.
Louisiana boys going
I'm going to set Garret up here. This must have been 1994 or 95. 95. I flew from Memphis, Tennessee to Atlanta, and Garret picked me up in this brand new blue Toyota Tacoma pickup, brand new.
Hold on. I got to clarify. Tacomas didn't exist then.
What was it?
It was just they called it 22 RE, just a pickup truck. That was it.
But it had big tires on it.
It did. It was a 4x4.
Yeah, 4x4 Toyota. Yeah. And you had on, I'll never forget this, you had on a Coca-Cola bumper sticker. Do you remember that? I said, Garret,
I do remember that.
I don't know, because I was like, why do you have a Coca-Cola bumper sticker on your car? And this probably goes back to Garrett's love of American companies. It's a great company. Do you remember? I was like,
yeah.
So you just put a Coca-Cola bumper sticker on your car because it's a great American company? He goes, absolutely. It's a great American company. Yeah. So that tells you right there.
It's actually still in the front.
Is it really?
Is, yeah.
So, and then we...
and where is that truck now?
That truck is still in a parking lot in Washington, D.C. right now. I keep thinking about driving it home, and of course, I'm going to take up too much time. I'm going to tell you a quick little story. So the truck was sitting in our backyard, and it just kind of had a tarp over it, and the kids would play in it, and every month you need a pickup truck for something. Right. So I'd pull the tarp off, and I'd go use it. Most reliable thing ever. Well, one day I'm on the phone, And I'm looking out in the backyard and I see the truck, and I turn to my wife and say, you know what? I'm going to drive that truck to DC. That way I'll have a car up there when I need it sometimes. She's like, Garrett, that truck's not going to make it out of Baton Rouge. You're crazy. And I go, nope. Not only am I driving it, I'm going to take our son with us. And she's like, oh my gosh, you're crazy. So she takes it to this mechanic and she's like, look.
How many miles on it did it have about then?
Then it probably had about 300,000.
Oh my God.
And so she's like, look, I'll pay you double if you can find something wrong with this thing. The guy had it for like 5 days. He goes, lady, I changed the oil. I did everything I could. He goes, this thing's in great shape. He's going to be fine. And we were. We drove all the way up. It was absolutely fine. We did little stops along the way. Our son was probably 12 or so. And that truck has just been the most reliable thing ever. It really. Now the original suspension, so it sort of rides like a boat, but it's been great. So,
and you still have it.
Still have it. Still have it.
That's unbelievable. Well, this is 20 years ago, right? 30 years ago.
Going, yeah.
30 years ago. 30.
What was it like for two Baton Rouge boys in Washington, D.C.?
Well, I'll set the stage because, first of all, we drove to Camp Mondamon, where Garrett was, of course, a mountaineering guide, and that was really interesting. But then we get in the car, we drive. Garrett had this obsession with Dave Matthews, so we listened to Dave Matthews the entire time, nonstop, and at the time, Garrett always a handsome devil, but he had long hair with a beard. The first thing we did, remember where we went? Supercuts.
Yeah.
He said, I can't go to work for John Bro with his hair. We went to Supercuts and got him a $12 haircut.
All right, so I'm gonna drag this thing out. We're gonna be here for 2 days, but
no,
yeah, quick little anecdote there. So I don't know if you remember Ashley Dabity.
Yeah,
all right,
of course.
So Ashley, I got in a couple days before our dorm or whatever, so I think we stayed a night or so with her and her friends. They had a big old house, and she had 4 roommates, and I met every single one of them when I was still bearded and long hair. And so she says, well, hey, look, we're going to this bar in Georgetown tonight. Why don't you come meet us? Like, yeah, absolutely. I just got to go wash clothes. I got to go get a haircut and, power wash myself and whatever else. And so I go and do it. And I mean, they just like take a razor and just, just in circles, cutting everything off. So I go meet Ashley and her 4 friends. We sat down with them at a bar in Georgetown for an hour and a half. And then I said, I got to go use the restroom. I get up and go walk to the bathroom. I come back and they are just all giggling. I'm like, what? And they're like, Ashley says, none of them realized you were the same person that they met this afternoon.
That's hilarious. That is hilarious. Michael tells me you were quite the ladies' man, though.
You know what? Let me tell you what I was, Jenny. I was wingman. I was wingman.
God, I'm scared of you
Yeah,
doing
no,
this.
that's right. That's right. Well, I'll tell you what I did learn from Garrett that summer was your love for outdoor sports. I bought my first mountain bike with you. You made me go. I called my mom and dad. I said, can you send me some money? Garrett's got a mountain bike and I want one too. And so they're like, okay, send me some money. Got a mountain bike, and that really changed my life because you had taught me a lot about health back then that I was not really into, as you could probably tell. But that was really important to you, and it rubbed off on me a little bit. So.
Well, as you know, DC is such an amazing city. The cultural opportunities, the memorials, everything, and being able to jump on a bike, you can access anything. Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And y'all work for Republicans and Democrats then. What was life in Washington back when y'all were there, and maybe how has it changed?
Oh, well, the changes, Jenny, have been amazing. So we worked for John Bro, who was a conservative Democrat. I then, Bro had offered me an internship to stay on, and then offered a job. And then I started talking to Billy Tozan, who was a conservative Dem at the time. He was in the process of switching parties. But look, going from working from Bro to Tozan, I mean, it was largely indistinguishable. And then you fast forward to today, where you don't have the Bros and Tozans anymore. Those are the folks that looked for outcomes. They looked for, how do we get into the end zone? How do we solve problems? How do we truly keep America's interest on the forefront? And now I feel like things have evolved so much into performing for social media, theatrical politics. And it's almost as though the metrics have changed. It's no longer about solving America's problems, keeping America's priorities at the forefront. Instead, it's, how can I get more followers? How can I do viral videos and tweets and what have you? And I think it's unfortunate. I think the functionality of Congress has degraded or really just become dysfunctional. And it's disappointing. The polarization, it's disappointing, and I think it's very much contrary to what our founders intended. So.
Those some
Now
of the
that my
reasons
blood pressure's at like 200 over over 110 or something.
Is that some of the reasons you backed away from politics? And are you happy about that?
Look,
get back into it.
I don't want to gloss over. There were some map changes and things that happened, and they drew some crazy district that goes from Baton Rouge winding up to Shreveport. I mean, you can't represent an area like that without getting into all the details. You just can't. Too disparate and putting the constitutionality of it aside. I loved representing the district we had. It had the capital region, the river region, the coastal region, areas where I knew people, worked with people, loved the people, the issues, and know them, got a ton of stuff done. And I just didn't feel that I could perform at the same level in this crazy snake-like district. But I got to tell you, I really am glad that I got out. I'm going through a little political detox right now, and I think it's just been really good to reset. And I think things up there have gotten worse. So I think you get up there long enough, you start thinking it's normal and okay. And Jenny, there's nothing normal and nothing okay about it. So I'm really glad to be out for a little while.
Do you ever see us getting back to that point, or are you hopeful that we can get back there? Or
Michael, I watched these little moments after 9/11, which I was actually in D.C. For 9/11 when Scalise and the baseball team were shot. Was another one. Hurricane Katrina was one where you watched people come together and put those political differences aside. And gosh, if I could bottle up those moments and capture them, I'd do it. And so I kept thinking that it was going to take a national crisis or tragedy to pull us together. And it's happened. But unfortunately, the lifespan of that has been very, very short. And unfortunately, it just slides back into this polarization. But I will tell you, I still hold out hope for a few reasons. One, and I know some folks have some skepticism with AI, but AI begins to sort through the theatrical and starts looking, you put parameters in and say, who are the best performing members of Congress in terms of outputs? And you start getting pictures painted. And I think it's going to begin separating those who are performative politics versus outcome driven or doing better for America, better for their state or district. And I'm hopeful that that's going to really begin to highlight the people that are better. And look, the other thing is, and of course I don't wish this, but I do think, my goodness, we have tenuous conditions in the Middle East. We have tenuous conditions with China, tenuous conditions with what's going on with Ukraine and Russia, heck, Venezuela. And I do think that if something happens, and let me make crystal clear, I hope it does not. But if one of these big events actually, kind of implodes, then that could be another opportunity for America to realize we've got to jettison this silliness and come back together.
A little reset. Yeah.
When y'all were there back in the days when things were good, did you see America with those rose-colored glasses then, that something like this would never happen? I mean, you talked about all the fun and the rock bands. Did you ever see America coming to this point then?
I didn't. We, like you didn't see this type of relationship at the staff level at all.
Y'all all went out together for beer.
Oh. All the time.
We went out together. We played on ball teams together. Watched football games together. There wasn't any division like that.
Yeah.
Just didn't exist.
Is there a point in time where this turned, or it was evolution? We're getting heavier into politics, and I hope that's
Yeah.
Okay.
Jenny, I feel like social media is a lot to blame. I remember Billy Tozan telling me the committee hearings and markup sessions used to not have cameras. And he said the day they put cameras in those committee rooms, just immediately people began performing for the cameras. And I think with social media, it's sort of taking that little instant that Tozan mentioned to committees, and it puts it on your whole life. There are always cameras. There are always phones around that are, picking up people's actions or people shooting quick videos. And so I think it's changed a lot. And I think that social media is largely to blame. And let's be clear, social media is amazing. I mean, we're going to use this, right?
Right.
It's an amazing, powerful tool that can be for good. But the fact that you can take somebody who's truthful, honest, good intentions and put them right into someone's feed, it can be dangerous if that person, again, malicious intent, not telling the truth, or trying to spread fear or lies. And so an amazing instrument for access and communication, but it also can be co-opted.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of interesting that you're getting into the AI arena as, again, we need to hop back to some other things, but I'm so interested this is evolving into now the next step in this process is that, embracing AI. So talk to us about how that might continue to happen.
Yeah. So look, I got pulled in. I've done a lot of work on energy and environmental issues. And so, everybody knows we're going to need this huge surge in demand. We're going to have to meet this huge surge in demand for electricity. And so how do we do it in a way that's responsible, a way that ensures reliability, ensures price impacts are tempered or don't occur, and of course the sensitivity to the environment. And so that's why I got in. And then as I've gotten more involved and learned more about it, look, the reality is there's no second place in AI. It's going to be the United States or China. And I'll tell you, all day long, I want the United States prevailing. I want our values that our veterans have sacrificed for to have longevity, duration. I want them to be protected. Our things like women's rights, free speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press, those things, democracy, they need to prevail. And so that's what's really driven me on this. We've got to prevail. People are talking pauses, stopping, what have you. It's either going to be U.S. values in there or it's going to be Chinese. And we have great companies and great technology. So just working really closely with a former senator from Arizona, Kirsten Sinema, who's also a runner. We're tag teaming on this thing a little bit. And it's been just an amazing experience, learning and bringing a lot of what I'll refer to as frenemies together to all focus on. You may have differences, but let's focus on America prevailing in this war that we're in right now.
While you were there, what were some of the highlights in your career that you're just so darn proud of? I know for me, I got to visit Garret 2 summers ago, and one of the things that was so cool when you did these late night tours, and Garret was beloved by everybody, and there's something about being from Louisiana, right? And these senators, congressmen, men and women, they would stop you and, Garret, are these more people from Louisiana? I mean, every turn we made, they would stop and talk to Garret about
it's uniquely Louisiana.
People. Can you explain that to us, and also tell us about some of the bright moments that you feel like you really accomplished for Baton Rouge and Louisiana? Look,
you do have to take a close look at Louisiana and wonder what it is we put in the water here. You have states like California that have over 50 members of Congress, over 50. Louisiana, we have 6 in the House. And we have the majority leader and the speaker, both from our state. First time in American history, it's been from the same state, and it's from our little old state with 6 members of the House. And of course, I served as the chair of the elected leadership committee, which was the speaker of the House and the majority leader whip and others, and had a great leadership position there. Negotiated the debt ceiling, which was the largest savings negotiated in American history, and negotiated the Speaker of the House, and whenever all that stalemate was occurring. And so, look, there's no doubt, I think in Louisiana, our politics is kind of like a favorite pastime here. It's something you grow up being exposed to much earlier, like LSU football and everything else. And of course, we've had all these colorful politicians. Of course, Edwin Edwards that we were in our first race with. Right. And I think it does prepare you very much for going to Congress and being able to operate in that environment. And so look, there were some great wins that we had there, and the fact that people say things like the place where the interstate funnels through a single lane, it's never going to be fixed. You know what it is, and we're on a trajectory to have that fixed. We had a project down in the river parishes that's been stuck since literally before I was born. Today there's about $3.7 billion in the bank, major construction underway. That project's going to be finished. North of us, similar situation. Project's been stuck since the early 80s. $1 billion in the bank. Project's going to be finished in a few years. And then on the national scale, one of the last bills that we had done worked closely together with in a bipartisan way with a congresswoman from Virginia who happens to be the newly elected governor there, Abigail Spanberger. And she and I made a commitment early on. We said, look, we're going to work together. We're going to make decisions jointly. Everything's going to be done by consensus, and we're going to get this dang thing done. This was legislation that folks had worked on, including some very, very famous politicians, worked on since the late 70s and early 80s. No one was able to get it done. And she and I set off on a course in January of 23, and we said we're gonna stay in lockstep. We did. We grew to the most co-sponsored bill in all of Congress. We ended up and communicated with everybody. We tried to go the regular way. It didn't work. We said by July, if we can't do this, we're going to circumvent the committee, which is usually not an advisable way to go. We circumvented the committee. We circumvented the leadership and my own friends like Scalise and Mike Johnson. I, of course, gave them a heads up, said, look, here's our deadline. If we don't have this done by August or September, we're going this route. We did it. And it was like the third time in or maybe fourth time in 30 years that this mechanism had been done. We then were able to put pressure on the United States Senate. And look, I'll cut to the chase. Police officers, firefighters, teachers, and other public employees have had somewhere between $600 and $700 billion cumulatively taken from them since the late 70s and 80s. And we fixed it. And over the next 10 years, you're going to have about $200 billion will be paid to them for restored retirement benefits, Social Security, and others. And Louisiana is one of the most impacted states in the nation with our teachers, firefighters, police officers, other people who are underpaid and overworked. And that one, it literally became law. I think it was January 6th or 7th of this year. In fact, after because my last day was January 3rd. So President Biden signed it into law after I left Congress. And that was definitely one that I'll never forget.
That's amazing.
That's going to make a lot of people listening to this really sad that you're not there working for us again. And the other thing, working with strong women, I love to hear that.
No, she was fantastic. She really was. Like, we didn't agree on everything, but I'll tell you, and we definitely had a few off the record knockdown dragouts. We did. We couldn't agree on strategy, but we came together. And yeah, she's become a good friend and personally, in fact, my wife's become a huge fan of hers. In fact, Abigail invited us to her swearing in coming up in early January. So.
Why aren't these stories like what you just said being promoted more?
Because they're not sexy. More? They're not sexy in today's time.
See, I thought
it's better. But see, here's the thing, Hackett. When if you're out there yelling and beating up on people and everything else, then that's what gets the attention right now. That's the reward mechanism. It's a perverse reward mechanism for people who do that. And it's not just about getting the attention, the likes, and everything else. They're also getting small dollar contributions. And so it used to be that people like that didn't have a reward mechanism for their behavior. Now there is, and it's incentivized. There's a perverse incentive for people to perform that way. But let me tell you something. My personal opinion, look, I'm out of politics, but this is not good for America. It's not. We're losing sight of what America's priorities are. We spend 90% of our time on the 10% of things we fight about or disagree on. Let me say that another way, or in a better way. We spend 90% of our time fighting on the 10% of things we disagree upon, as opposed to spending 99% of our time on the 90% of things we agree on. Everybody wants better schools and opportunity for our kids. Everybody wants America to have strong military. Everybody wants us to have safe communities and crime-free. People want to have good infrastructure. I mean, what in the world are we doing? What are we doing? Spending all of our time fighting on these things. And as we do this, as we sit here and beat the heck out of each other, other countries are going to pass us because we are just sitting here stuck, treading water, beating up on each other.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect segue to what you wanted to talk about your love of public school systems and the community itself, and how Garrett's done a really good job of that. Locally.
Yeah. Our paths crossed several years ago when your son Ralston came to work for Varsity Sports, and he is what a charmer. We were just talking about before things we came on the air about, he came as a gangly high school kid, and now he's super handsome, successful college kid. But, the interesting thing about him, he is your son, and you went to Catholic High, Catholic school, but he went to a public school. He went to Baton Rouge High Magnet School and absolutely loved it and flourished there. What about that? What about your love for public school?
Yeah, look, Ralston, first of all, he's a fantastic kid. I don't deserve him. We're so blessed. But he's all of our kids are gifted, and he was especially STEMmy, and so we realized that with a few exceptions, with amazing teachers, he just wasn't being challenged. And so we started talking to some other schools, and look, I got to give a huge shout out to the principal over at McKinley Middle. Went and talked to him, and he said, "You bet, we'll help design a program. We'll keep him challenged," and he sure did. He let him take courses and big load and everything else, and just absolutely amazing. And that public school trajectory provided opportunity that the private schools simply were unwilling to accommodate or incapable of. And so at McKinley Middle, he loved it. He was challenged, and it set him on a great trajectory to go to Baton Rouge High, where once again he loved it. And as you know, they don't have a big focus on athletics. I think the soccer team maybe is the cool thing to do, and he did. He played as a soccer player, and he started running there. He had never really run before, but just fell in love with it. Except for, I remind him all the time, I tracked up thousands of miles with him in that running stroller over the years. I did. I mean, thousands of miles.
Garret, you're a strong runner.
When I'd run up Capitol Hill toward the end of my run, I had him trained to motivate me, and he would say, I think I can, as I'd be in that jogging stroller up the hill. And it set him up. I mean, national merit finalist and perfect grades, and it set him up for a great college trajectory. And he wasn't going to get that at a different school. It just
a public school.
Perfect
as
for
a
him.
Public school advocate. I love to hear those stories.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure
and of course, the
them
principal there is fantastic at
Yeah.
Baton Rouge High. She's great.
Yeah, she is. I will brag on your running prowess, and Michael has too. Said that you got him. And, we Stacy, our mutual neighborhood, said, "Hey, Garret needs to come out to your running group one day." So we met at Barracuda Tacos, and it was a whole lot of fun. Everybody loved having you out there. But I said, "Dang, he came on a day we're going to be doing hills."
That ain't nothing.
Oh, he killed it. In Pete Boudreaux's words, Garret killed the hills. It's like, okay, I don't have to worry about him. So he came back and bought everybody drinks, and it was wonderful. So he is strong all the way around.
Well, speaking of community as well, I'd love to brag on your wife a little bit with her work at the foundation, and
Absolutely.
I know Jenny is very involved with her for the parks and recreation and all the stuff that she's been doing.
Awesome.
What, how has she impacted what you're doing as well?
Yeah, Chris has always had this calling for community service, and she was one of the people that actually encouraged me to run initially. I will say later in life she may revisit that decision. May have revisited that decision a few times, but she did. And Carissa worked with inner city youth and just really has a calling for that. She did it in Detroit, L.A., Washington, Baton Rouge, and she just has a calling for it. And just for inner city youth, for the community, for recreational opportunities, and she was just a great partner. And that's one of the things that's tough about the job working in Congress. She didn't take the job. She didn't get paid to do the job. But I will tell you, her workload significantly increased when we were elected, and just a huge burden on her and on the family and everything. And she did an amazing job juggling. Of course, I like to tease her because I said, "Look, I didn't realize when you first encouraged me to run that I was going to be out of town 4 days a week."
Right.
I'm starting to wonder if you were just trying to get me out of the house. But she took on. Look, we had 3 kids, and she took it all on, and of course did that while working, and just a lot of juggling going on. Referred to her as air traffic control.
That's great.
And she did
You both must have a love for Baton Rouge, like Michael and I. It's something that keeps bringing people back because you've had opportunities to be a million other places, and so is she. But you always come back home, and Alligator Shoes, Michael's show was all about people that choose to stay and make Baton Rouge a better place. And I think you two are 2 of those, so you might want to help us, or help everybody. Michael, I understand.
Yeah.
Help everybody understand what is it.
Yeah. Gosh, Jenny, I mean, that's just, it's a question that gets me so excited just thinking about it. So I'm going to tell Carissa a good story on Carissa that once again, she's going to be mad at me about. But so we were in DC and I said, hey, look, we were going back and forth about whether we were going to buy this mountaineering company and do that full time or come back home. And we were going back and forth. I won't bore you with the whole story, but obviously we came home, and Carissa, who moved about every 2 or 3 years growing up, never lived any place longer. I think the longest place she lived was maybe 5 years or 4 years, something like that. And so I said, look, let's move to Louisiana. And she, suffice to say, did not want to come. Didn't have an interest, didn't have high, real thoughts of Louisiana. And of course, this was home for me, and I was offended by that. A mutual friend from Morgan City said to her, said, look, don't look at it like you're moving to another state. Look at it like you're moving to another country. Mm-hmm. And I remember, and that was when it sort of unlocked this thing to Carissa, and she was like, huh. And so she came down. She has now lived in Louisiana. Now, I gotta disclose, I told her we were going to move here for 2 years in 2008. Oops.
Right.
Good thing she's not good at math. But so she has now lived here longer than anywhere else. And Jenny, you know, to get to your long setup to get to your question, but look, there is no place like this. There just isn't. And yes, I've had the opportunity to travel all over the country, all over the world, and just the people, the culture, the fun, you know, and it goes back to like working with Bro and Tozan and how Michael noted, you know, whenever you're walking around the Capitol and people come out of everything, just the ability to infuse fun into work. I mean, our office, our team of people, we played hard, we teased each other, we always pulled pranks on each other, but we got more stuff done than anyone. I mean, we did. And I think that people just became sort of attracted to that, you know, like we didn't look at it like work. Like it was fun, we were friends, and that's something that's here. That is just ingrained in you here. I mean, you know, I'll say it again, Bro and Tozan, they don't make them like that up there. And so this place is special. I mean, heck, you know, and you're well aware of the St. Patrick's Day parade. I mean, here you have Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and yeah, we got a little bit of Irish in us. Pat Shingleton, thank you.
Love Pat.
But you know, I mean, we took this parade and we just, you know, boom, turned it into this amazing festivities, Mardi Gras, Jazz Fest, football games. I mean, our tailgate turnouts, people come here just, you know, they don't know either football team and they want to come just experience the tailgate.
Right. Sure.
And so it's just that thing where Louisiana, where we're here, Baton Rouge, we're able to just take things that in other places, and I'll pick on Iowa and North Dakota and others. I mean, could you imagine, you know, a St. Patrick's Day parade, a Mardi Gras, music festival, a tailgate, you know, and we just take it and we just go next level and really just bring the way that we incorporate fun and joy into what I think other people would consider menial task or routine. Yeah. It is second to none.
You know, your love for Louisiana and Baton Rouge, I mean, you can feel it, but do you feel the love that people have for you? Because, I mean, seriously, there, you know, genuinely people respect and love all the hard work you put in. I hope you feel that.
Oh, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Like one other thing, and I got to give proper credit to our tourism department in Louisiana. Years ago, they came up with this little tourism campaign for the Atchafalaya Basin, and they said the Atchafalaya Basin, America's foreign country. And I was like, oh, that's so good. I don't know whoever came up with that. Kudos, but I just think it really describes South Louisiana. Like you don't have a place in the United States that has the culture. I mean, you go down to to Grand Isle and Fouchon, South Lafourche, South Terrebonne. I mean, just you don't have places like that anywhere in this country. Amazing people, natural resource beauty that is off the chart. Some of the most unique areas in the world, and one of the most productive ecosystems in the world. I mean, it you know, you talk about love. I'll tell you, it's hard to not feel the passion representing, working for, you know, restoring the coast, protecting communities, making sure there's economic opportunity, there's livelihood, there's an opportunity for next generation for all of South Louisiana when you have such great people, resources. Yeah. It's just it just drives you. It does.
Yeah.
One more question before Jenny close us out with some words of wisdom. And you might not know this. Where do you think you'll be in 5 years? Do you have any idea? Or is this the kind of a reset for you? Do you know what's on the horizon?
Is there a political future for you?
Yeah, look, Jenny, I don't know. I don't. I'll tell you. And we were talking before the microphones turned on, and I'm doing a little bit of consulting work right now. And look, I enjoy the people I'm working with and the issues, but I'll be really candid with you. I'm struggling with the why. I can. A lot of the folks we're working with, believe in the mission and things like that, but just the public service why, like feeling that pull or that just real desire to do good for the community, for the public, for the country. That's a hard thing to replace, and that's one of the things I've struggled with more since January when I left than anything else, is just the why. So I certainly do have a pull toward that, but one of the things my wife...
In my mind, you answered the whys for the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, the things you have accomplished and the people that love you and the servant that you are. Why? How can you sit on the bench?
Well, but the thing my wife and I have talked about a little bit is there a way for us to do the why without getting back into the, is the only way of doing it running for office again? And I don't know the answer to that question. I don't, but I'm not going to rule it out.
Good.
But definitely, going to keep doing a little bit of consulting and some of the volunteer work that we're doing now, and staying involved in the community, and loving our kids and watching them grow up too fast, and trying to make Carissa like me again. Yeah. So those are my short-term goals.
Well, you got a lot of other people that love you, so we appreciate it.
That's great. It's my turn.
Your
Close
turn.
things out. Well, Garret, I usually close things out with the wisdom I've got over 40 years of running, and most of it's silly stories and not a whole lot of wisdom, obviously, as I sit here today. But I think I think it's probably 1983, I was in Houston, Tenneco Marathon, and I hadn't been running for long, and this ended up being one of my breakthrough marathons after a couple years of running. So it was a double looper at that time, and anyway, I was running with a guy, had a really good run going, and we got about halfway, and I said, I think I'm starting to feel a blister. And I usually am not very ever blister prone. And he looked at me and said, it's not time to think about that now. You can't think about that. And I said, he's right. I'm going to tune it out. I've got to do that. So I ran the next 13 miles, focused on the run. I got across that finish line, and I could not walk a step. Anybody that's done that, you've probably done that. I mean, I could run 13 miles, but I could not walk a step without a volunteer picking me up. I could not move anymore. They took me to the medical tent, and I had blisters from one end of my foot to the other. And the amazing thing to me, and the lesson I learned, is what a powerful thing the mind is. I felt a tweak of a blister, and 13 miles later, I didn't feel it until my mind says I can shut down. And, I think if I could learn anything, is to harness that power of positivity of what the mind can do when the body says maybe not. So, it's those kind of things. I'm sure every athlete has a story like that they couldn't take another step after, the mind had said it was time. So thank you so much for being with us, Michael. Thank you for sharing such a great guest with us.
Amazing. Well, thank you all very much for tuning in to a crossover event with Jenny Peters of It Runs Deep and myself. I'm Michael Hackett, Alligator Shoes, and our friend, good friend, a lifelong friend, and somebody that we are so lucky to have in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and the United States of America, who loves Dave Matthews. We didn't get to Dave Matthews
story.
Him being at the Kennedy Center with Dave Matthews, we didn't talk about it, but continue to follow this guy, because I know there's some bright things on the horizon for all of us as long as he's involved. So thank you all very much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.
I like crawfish, I like rice, and I like girls that treat you nice. Hey, I'm gonna find me one in Baton